Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Patti Zona is back with us, and she thought she had it all: a loving husband, wonderful children, and a comfortable home life, until everything changed as Patti's husband became consumed with his career. Dysfunction and corruption began to emerge in unexpected places. Well, after an exhaustive legal battle, she felt hopeless and powerless. But she would soon discover that all the lawyers and money in the world can't stand in the way of a devoted mother. Never underestimate the value of a homemaker. Back with us on the program is author Patti Zona. Patti, it's great to have you back with us. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. We're talking about two of Patti's books, specifically on this program, The Value of a Homemaker, another book of Patti's that we talked about, her most recent Little Cottage House. That's available. You can get the information at our website at either iTunes or YouTube. Patti, in one of the reviews on The Value of a Homemaker, it said she only wanted others to recognize the role, significance, and worth as a wife, mother, and homemaker. She only longed for it to be valued. Does that pretty well sum up what the book is about? Because it's talking about someone that was a partner with a great deal of success for 28 years, basically abandoned after the divorce.
Yes, and I felt not only was I a partner, I was an equal partner. What my role was as important or just as important, and maybe even more important, because my husband grew to have incredible success. And he needed to have all of his ducks in the row and everything done for him. Where my life, had to do it myself. And there was no guarantee that Rick was going to be home that evening, or golf was going to take precedent, or a business meeting or a business call. The thing is that we had children, and he was so busy, his work was so important, and I understood that, and our children actually understood that as they grew older. And but also all of the demands changed him, and it was his and his just the fact that nothing was ever good enough at home anymore. And I don't know, it was unfortunate because he was home so briefly that he really didn't know me. He knew me, but he didn't appreciate my role
Patti
anymore.
Zona is our guest on the program. The book we're talking about was her first book, The Value of a Homemaker. Information on the book at Patti's website, which is Patti, P-A-T-T-I, Zona, Z-O-N-A, books.com. Of course, you get a link on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. The book is available all across the country as well. Why do you think that transformation occurred from, and you were married at a young age, had the children, had success together, went from that loving husband relationship to one where he basically was a stranger? You described that he was sort of removed from his feelings during the later stages of the marriage.
Well, toward the end, he incorporated, along with meditation to relax, he incorporated self-hypnosis in order not to feel. Well, there are certain things that would trigger that feeling, and of not wanting to feel really what was going on at work. His mergers and acquisitions, hostile takeovers. You don't always want to remember the hard things. I mean, we still do, and that's all over the board. I mean, it's not just my ex-husband or my husband at the time, but it was how if you were to be successful, do the hard, difficult things, you had to compromise your integrity and go beyond just what other people that had. He he just was encouraged. He was not told at work. If he was an alcoholic, if he was doing something else that was not going to reflect well in the corporate world, then they would have had an intervention, and if he was good enough,
Right.
if he was worth enough. But they didn't do that because what he was doing, he made so much money by loss of his feelings, his emotions. He didn't want to see, he didn't want to know. And that happens now. And people do it. They might use self hypnosis, or they might use uh, some kind of drink. They wanted to have a
Right.
cocktail, and they maybe have a little pill or whatever. Instead of listening to your body, your mind is an important part of our. Hey, is very important. You have to know what's going on around. If you're feeling that there's something wrong, or that you feel a little guilty or whatever, you should feel that, because it's telling you that this isn't right. But if you numb your conscience, you won't know.
You said something there that was interesting, that an intervention might have been possible in the business world if he was of value to do that. And so much of the book talks about the corruption of the corporate culture. Talk about that, because, yes, it becomes sort of what risk reward cost analysis, whether this employee is worth the nuisance and the cost of having to put them through something. Talk about the corporate culture and how that really was critical in the destruction of the marriage.
Well, it was really evident when it wasn't just it was in the corporate world, but one of the partners' wives uh, told me that what Rick had accomplished, making millions for Ernst and Young at the time, was so important. I should be proud of that. And but it didn't. So it didn't matter that he's sacrificed his family, or he didn't have time for his family. That didn't, in her eyes, it didn't matter. So it depends on where you're coming from. Some people, money and power and position will always be more important. And to others, it is about family. And I can't, I want other people to be successful. They don't always have to make millions and billions to be happy, but you want people to have a good life, a life that they don't have to live in fear of losing their house, or how they can have a career that is really worthwhile, that inspires them, and they it's they just feel good about themselves. But to go into having to work for two or three jobs to in order to make your house payments and pay all your bills, that's wrong.
You talk
And
about addiction to money, and
yes,
it's as addicting as substances are, alcohol and drugs. And you say you never have enough. And you're speaking firsthand because you've been through the situation in a household where you had great success, but the next step was even greater success.
that's right. That's right. Because eventually you can buy and have everything that you want, but the next step is you've some of these things in some areas you've stepped on people's toes, people have been hurt, and you want to forget that. And so you it's hard to say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But you can buy your way in, and you can buy your way out. And so you can buy your way into positions. Oh, if you made a lot of money and it wasn't working out the office, they would give you a golden parachute. Say maybe back then it would be like 500,000, and you would go to another state
Right.
or another company. And so you never ever were left without penniless, or without even a month or 6 months or 3 months or whatever. I mean, you had that really nice cushion. But a lot of times these people were set up to fail themselves because they were not qualified, or they weren't really, yeah, they just weren't qualified to step in this other role. But yet, companies protect themselves. They replace that becomes their family. They have a certain amount of loyalty. I mean, that's nothing new. But I think for a lot majority of the people that have these 9 to 5 jobs and are at the mercy of the hierarchy, and they trust to believe that things will work out. But here lately, for too long, people have this disconnect, and the further the divide, is then you don't see, you don't know, and you're kind of blinded by your entitlements and your ego
You're
and your peers.
You're listening to This Week in America. Our guest on the program is Patti Zona, and Patti is PattiZona. Her website is pattizonabooks.com. You can link on directly at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. The book we're talking about, and we'll shift gears here in a couple of minutes, the first book, The Value of a Homemaker, a memoir. Her newest book is called Little Cottage House. And it's interesting you mentioned the golden parachute is there. Even if you're unsuccessful, chances are they will take care of you, except if you're a spouse and you go to court. And to say this was antagonistic would be downplaying the emotion and what you went through. As often happens as we're talking with Patti, the time is going by way too quickly. But talk about the court situation, because you did not find this a friendly situation. You were in battle with somebody that basically had access to attorneys that are on payroll. So good luck trying to keep up from a legal standpoint.
Well, U.S. Bank had an awful lot of power. And yes, I can't believe that it happened. And like I said before, I think Rick has regrets when he's at certain situations. But what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, the question is what you went through. You go to the courts, and I guess you probably go into this thinking, at least I'm going to have an impartial hearing of what I've meant to the success, equal partners, building what this family has. And you went in and you found out that it really didn't work that way. You had battles with the court system.
Well, I did, and my attorney at one point had told me that it's unfortunate that Rick is in the type of business that he is, because it's ruthless, and they have to make these hard choices. And sometimes he needed to take a break, but he never ever did. He wasn't encouraged to, for one thing. But uh, I it's so painful to think that that happened. And I know it's because I was the wife, the mother. I didn't live, I moved. We moved here to Minnesota. So I didn't have the connections that most people had. And so they probably thought they didn't know me, even though people liked me. They liked me as a person, and I wasn't an asset to my husband because I people gravitated toward me. But a lot of people didn't like my husband, and that made me sad. But I tell you, the bigger, and the successes, and the more successes, I started not to like him myself because he wasn't the man that I married. And he wasn't the best husband. He was an absentee father. And when he was home, he didn't know how to be that parent. He didn't know how to pitch in and even to guide his sons. They were left without guidance from a father. I can give them love and encouragement and my guidance, but I was a mother. I was a homemaker, and that was important to me to provide. But I also wasn't. My background was music, art, and dance, and and I said that I was going to be a singer, dancer, artist, and missionary. But so there was something in that. But because my husband detached from his feelings, and remember when they said we are not going to have prayer in school, we're not going to. All of a sudden, we were removed from everything that was good, and life seemed to be always about the fight and to win. And it was you didn't talk about certain things. You didn't really talk about others in a way that there was compassion, because now it seemed like everything was about the bottom line or the revenue, what some people could gain and use.
And you talk about compassion and honestly listening to people and trying to work through these problems in both of the books, The Value of a Homemaker and Little Cottage House. Our guest in the program is Patti Zona. The website is pattizonabooks.com. The books are available all across the country. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You struggled. This wasn't just like, okay, the divorce is over and I'm getting my life back together. It's a constant struggle. Probably safe to say that you were still feeling the repercussions of this. We've got a few minutes left in the program. I want to touch on the book we talked about on the last program. And again, you can find the audio and the video at our website at YouTube and iTunes. Your little cottage house. And this was going to be the refuge. This was going to be, and it sounds really so relaxing and calming, my little cottage house. I can go, it's peaceful, I can get away. It didn't work out that way. It's not working out that way, is it?
No, no. The because the problems were never addressed, and they just kept getting bigger and larger, and it's it started affecting not just my life, but the way people were doing businesses everywhere across the board. Real estate agents, um, the government, we all know the banks and the Wall Street, and it was like there wasn't a code of honor any longer, and you were at the mercy. And I believed when I bought this house that everybody was going to be fair, and they were wanted. I didn't know that they would. The problems were not going to be disclosed in this house, and I paid way too much for it. So, and I didn't know that the taxes were going to be so high, and that the government doesn't care that Merrill Lynch took the sale of my house money. They didn't care about all the predators that took my money, and they were all professional. And I'm thinking, it didn't matter. Just no matter how high the taxes, you still have to pay those taxes, which of course, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and all of that is detailed in the book, The Little Cottage House. Patti Zona, our guest on the program. And through all of this in November of 2013, and we've touched on this before, you really get a shot of reality, what's important with family as a granddaughter is born. Talk about that and the impact that's had on you and everyone in the family.
Yes, baby Jenna was born in November of well, she's about 18, 19 months now, and she was born with a rare condition. She can't be held, she can't be touched. It's EB, epidermis bullosus bullosa. The condition is so horrific that they want to give it a beautiful name, so they call them butterfly children or butterfly babies. And it's when that happened, it's very, very difficult. She's an incredibly beautiful, well, they have to do a bandage change every 2 days, but it's so rare that the doctors, it's sort of a guessing game. My son and his wife had to learn how to care for her. They change the bandages twice every 2 days, and she's just so sweet and so loving. I just pray. I had an incredible dream the other day, and it was about baby Jenna, and she was. I mean, I just hope that is something that she's going to have. If all goes well, in the early fall, she'll have a bone marrow transplant. So we're just praying that this will help her have a more normal life, and other children that is have this condition. It's very sad, but it made me realize how man-made problems keep coming. They don't care what's going on in your life, my life, or the devastations around. Sure, it looks good if they say, "Oh, we're sending this money because they have these millions and billions to this country," but they don't care. They don't care that there are better solutions that that we can concentrate on, that are real solutions, not just a band-aid, not just for show, that it's sincere. And I didn't, it was like I realized all the problems in this world, there's some things that you have no control over. And when baby Jenna was born, it was like, hey, I I really resented the fact that my taxes became even more unsurmountable, that my house, I felt trapped because I really couldn't move, because all the money I put in my house, I had very little left.
We've got just a minute or so left in the program. Where are you today? Are you getting to the point, and we've talked about this before, and you talk about it in the book, still fighting with tax people, still fighting the system as you go because of wrongs that were incurred years ago. Are things beginning to shake out, do you think, where life maybe will become what you would expect normal to be?
Well, I hope so. I've found someone that is helping me with my taxes, and the problem was there was no communication between uh, the little bit of money I had left from Merrill Lynch fiasco with my person that had was taking care of this money. There was absolutely no really communication saying, now make sure that you put that if you take money out, that is it tax deferred. And I'm not even sure if I'm saying this right, but in the sense, I sometimes I'd have to take money out to pay my workers and to pay my taxes, and then because I'd find out that because I took that money out to do that, I was double taxed because it wasn't set up the way it's supposed to be, where you can um, not the taxes would be.
Right.
And but anyway, the funny thing is that now that's not certainly isn't funny, but they didn't have the communication. They weren't communicating with each other, and I didn't know how to say, call. Would you call Scott? Would you call Rich? Would you call, you know? I'm not a businesswoman, but I do have common sense, and I do know right from wrong, and I know complicated and convoluted. So, and that's what my life has been. And it didn't have to be that way because my husband had all the money in the world. I got the house, but it wasn't paid off. I had a high mortgage, which is a shame. It's a shame that he would do that, that he would put me in this position, and that the bank, U.S. Bank, didn't step in and say, well, we'll help you. That Ernst& Young didn't say, if you need tax help, we will help you, guide you, something. And I didn't have anyone. So, that's pretty unfair and pretty unfortunate and pretty sad.
And there are others going through that situation. That's why the book really, you're sharing the stories as an inspiration to other homemakers who've gone through maybe similar situations or see similar situations on the horizon. The first book is The Value of a Homemaker, a memoir. The second book is Little Cottage House. Our guest on the program has been Patti Zona. That's PattiZona. The website is very simple, PattiZonaBooks.com. You can link on directly at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can get information on Patti and her books available at the website. Books are available all across the country as well. Patti, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us again, sharing this message and inspiring other people.
Thank you so much. And I did get a chance to mention Elizabeth Warren's book. That's a wonderful read.
Which is excellent, and it's eye-opening for all of us. That really is crucial, and it really goes to the core of what you're talking about, the importance of responsibility and accountability. And you keep saying knowledge is key, and that's it. And that's just one of the little nuggets of information out there is her book. You're listening to This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Patti Zona, our guest. You'll find all of her information, and you'll be able to link on directly at our website, thisweekinamerica.us.